Welcome, welcome, welcome back to AG University podcast. We are back and she is a wife. If you guys are watching me on YouTube, here's my new bling on my ring finger. Feels so nice. My ring feels so complete with a wedding band. It just feels very full, very whole. What a weekend. Wow. I have so many things to share and so many directions this can go. We'll just see, alas, where the wind takes us. If you're new here, hi, my name is Anna Grace Newell. I am an Akashic Records practitioner, intuitive guide, content creator, podcaster. I dabble in everything, but most importantly, what I'm most proud of is this community that I have built over here at AG University, a school from the cosmos, a school of intuition, helping you reconnect with yourself and your intuitive voice, because ultimately that's what leads us to our purpose. And I truly feel like our happiest, healthiest, most bold, vivacious version of self. And I hope that I can hold your hand and lead you back to that inner child, the version of you that you know that you're meant to be. So thank you for being here and allowing me to be your guide, your professor, the lead dancing unicorn. We are the dancing unicorns here at AG University Podcast. That is our mascot and probably one of my proudest creations. The dancing unicorns brings me infinite joy. So I'm just so happy you guys are here. I'm just so happy to be married and to no longer be planning this wedding, because now that you guys have probably seen it roll out on my social media, hopefully. If not, it's all saved to my highlights. You cannot miss it. There's about 3 highlights. There's 2 wedding highlights with all of the weekend activities, and it's on my main page at Anna Grace Newell. And my main page is where I just keep it fun. I keep it light. I do dancing and fashion and just self-expression. And then for those who are ready to go a bit deeper, I hope that everyone finds me over here at AG University, because that's where we add in a little bit more of the energetic. It's like a true behind the scenes version of how I am able to show up with the amount of energy that I have each day on my main page. Like this is like the interweavings back here. So I kind of like it. This is such a sacred space for me. And of course, I always post everything else, angel readings, on AG University podcast Instagram page. And most people don't know what the Akashic Records is, and that's totally okay. It's our soul's library, our soul's journey, our life script, God's plan, all the things. I truly believe it's all the same thing. Come one, come all. We are speaking the universal language of love. So that is my spiel. I haven't done like an official introduction for a while, and I do feel like I've had some new people. So I try to keep everybody up to speed with what's going on over here, but I'm happy you're here. And yes, so now that you've seen everything roll out on my social media, you will see that this was a serious production for an at-home backyard wedding. And it definitely, these last few months, was all consuming, but in the best way, because even though I had vision for how I wanted everything to go down, I wanted to do a fairy garden wedding. I wanted there to be fairy lights, and I wanted our reception to look like a fairy forest. So I had this vision for these big trees on the tables and lots of kind of those little droopy down things from trees. You know what I'm talking about. I call them wispies. That's not what they're called, but that's just what I call them. And I had all these visions that obviously I had amazing people helping me. I've tagged everybody on my Instagram. But when you see it all come to life, it is just so crazy. It truly felt like a fever dream. Wedding energy is such a portal. I felt like the whole weekend I was in a portal. I don't even know what else to say. A whirlwind is what I think most people would call a portal. I call it a portal, but whirlwind, same thing. It's just like this really, really crazy energy, even leading up to it. Because I really feel like weddings are such a divine union of souls. I mean, you really are intimately making promises and vows and creating really strong intentions, and it's just a lot. I feel like it's one of those things that changes the trajectory of your life in a really positive way. Like, I truly believe anyone who gets married, it changes the trajectory of your life, whether like you've been married before, you're happily married, your marriage didn't work out. Like, it doesn't matter. It was all exactly what was meant to happen. I'm just speaking to everyone kind of broadly here, because I feel like, yeah, marriages are just, it's a lot of energy, and I feel like it's a big part of your story. It's kind of one of those big monumental moments. And Whatever your experience has been so far, it was perfect. Whatever you have not experienced yet, it's going to be perfect. And that was really how I went into the weekend, being like, you know what, at the end of this, no matter what, Austin and I, we're getting married. Because it was definitely getting quite stressful the final 2 weeks leading up to the wedding, just with a lot of very complicated logistics that I'm not going to bore you guys with. However, the actual ceremony, that's kind of what I'm going to walk you guys through, because I wanted to share this story a long time ago. And I didn't, because I obviously needed to wait and tell it at our wedding ceremony. I actually didn't know when I was ever going to share this story. It was just it was a cool intuition story, which obviously this is a school of intuition. And I love to share winks of my intuition and how it works for me, so that that can activate and connect with your intuition inside of you. I feel like that's how it works. When you hear other people's stories of intuition and witness them, it sparks something. Like your own intuition is like, yes, woohoo, I'm here too. I can do that too. Yay, look at me. So that's why I always love to share these stories. And the story is one that has been building for 4 years now. But then as it was leading up to our wedding, I would say in July, we got married in October. July was when I fully like remembered all of this and put all the pieces together, and I wrote them down, and I was like, I think I'm going to tell Austin this story at our wedding and incorporate it into my vows. And so then I was like, well, obviously I've got to tell him and get married first before I tell my podcast. That is the fun thing though about having AG University podcast, is because this community is so supportive and loving. And I just know everyone here. I mean, I've met you guys whenever I do retreats or events, and everyone is just so fantastic and lovely. And I just know everyone that's listening is my people. So I'm like, you guys are going to be excited about this story. And I was dying to tell you guys. So this is the story. So this was the story that I told Austin at our ceremony, and then it led into our vows, which I'm going to share. I'm going to share our wedding video as well, like the full long 10-minute video. I think that it goes up on the videographer's YouTube channel and our YouTube channel, which might have some more of the vows, like Austin's vows and Zane's, my letter to Zane. I haven't shared any of that yet. It just feels like a little intimate. Like, I don't mind sharing my stuff, but I always try to be protective and respectful of Austin and Zane when it comes to this whole world of sharing, because Austin is not a sharer. I mean, he doesn't care to, but it's just like doesn't come naturally. Whereas I love to share every detail of my life. Like, I literally couldn't wait to share my wedding with you guys. I was like so excited to get everything rolling. Everyone's like, girl, you don't have to post all this. I'm like, no, I just love to share it. It's like, it's so fun for me to go back and relive it. So anyways, I might have Austin come on the podcast and he can kind of tell his side. We keep meaning to record a podcast together. So anyways, I'll share maybe more of Austin's, what he said, and Zane's, my letter to Zane, like later if it comes out in the wedding video. But for now, I'm just going to share my aspect because I feel like that makes the most sense. But I was pulling it up, so I had some notes just so I keep the flow and I don't go rogue. But I guess, this is my podcast and I can be long-winded. For the sake of our wedding, I was trying to keep it concise-ish because I didn't want to take everyone on too much of a journey. But I say this, I love handwritten vows. I love a handwritten letter at a wedding. I love a little story, a little background. So I share the story of how essentially everyone ended up in our backyard on our wedding day. And I just thought it was a really fun, full circle moment. So back in 2021, I was doing a hypnotherapy training session. And if you don't know what hypnotherapy is, it's really where you're going into the theta state, which is our rest part of the brain waves. And hypnotherapy is a really amazing way for you to connect deeply with yourself, deeply with your subconscious mind. I feel like there's a lot of different ways people use it, but I feel like it's ultimately just like getting yourself into a really, really relaxed state. And then you are prompted by a hypnotherapist. It kind of depends what you're going for. Like, I know some people go for like maybe they want to like quit smoking, or, that there's something going on. They're trying to get to the root of it. Right. I was just going out of sheer curiosity because I was still early in my journey of deciding what I wanted to share with the world. How did I want to label myself? How did I want to identify? I had only been in the Akashic Records for a year at this point. Yeah, because I got in at 2020. I can't ever remember if it's 2019 or 2020, whatever. It was still early on. So I was just playing in every single modality. And I feel like that's a really important part of my story is that like I tried on every hat and wore it around and said, how do I feel in this hat? I feel like that's like the beautiful part of any adventure. Maybe you're starting or want to start is like try literally everything. So, anyways, I was in my hypnotherapy phase where I was just really intrigued by it. And I thought it was really cool because what I was actually learning at the time was how to create a safe space in the mind. So, as soon as I had a teacher, my hypnotherapy teacher. As soon as we got on, you meditate, you ground, you do all the things, you get into a relaxed place. Like you're laying down, typically, like you might cover your eyes. We were doing it virtually at the time because it was still like post COVID when everyone had gone to doing like everything virtually since 2020. So, anyways, so I'm like laying down, you get super comfy, like you have a blanket. It's like a very relaxed state. And like I said, we're trying to get into that theta state. And it's for me, it was all about, I think, learning more about the nervous system and when was it dysregulated, how to regulate it. Anyway, so like one of the first things you do is you create a safe space in the mind. And so I go through this hypnotherapy training. But at the time in 2021, when I'm doing this, as we're about to create our little safe space together, backstory, Austin and I had just met 2 months prior. Okay. So rewind back in time as I'm doing this hypnotherapy. I'm dating this new man and he was about to leave for training camp in August because this was in the summertime. He's about to leave for training camp and he was working 100 hours a week. And when he wasn't working, he was on the road recruiting because he was a college football coach, which is a super, super duper intense lifestyle. So I remember thinking he was really special. He was really amazing. I was like, I really like him. But I remember thinking when this man goes back to training camp, like I don't literally know how else. We didn't even live in the same city. He lived in Clarksville. I lived in Nashville and we lived an hour apart. And I know people are like, oh, that's not that far. When you live an hour apart from someone who has to get up at 4 in the morning to go to work and gets home at 9 o'clock at night, like you might as well live 10 hours apart. Like there was no like, oh, I'll spend the night at yours and then get up and drive to work in the morning. It's like, no, he's not going to get up at 3 a.m. to drive. So it was just a very difficult circumstance from the beginning for us to get any quality time together. But I was like, man, he seems really special. But like ultimately, the picture I'm trying to paint for you guys is that I really had no idea what our future held at this point. It was exciting, but also I was like, yeah, I just was like, I don't know. Like logistically, I'm not really seeing how this is going to work out. He was a new character in my life. And I'm like, okay, is he going to go to training camp and I never talk to this man ever again? Like that's a possibility. I don't know. And also how involved am I going to be in like his football world? Because that also wasn't really my world either. You get it. So that's where we were at the time of me doing this hypnotherapy training. So she tells me, she's like, Anna Grace, I want you to go ahead and create a safe space in your mind as we get started in my hypnotherapy session. I was like, okay. And so she's like, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And I don't want you to alter them. I don't want you to question them. Like whatever comes up, let it come up. It could be a made up place. It could be somewhere you've never been before. It doesn't have to make sense. Just like let your brain create something that feels really safe to you. Because then, like, as you go through the hypnotherapy experience, whatever emotions you arise, you always come back to your safe space, which I feel like is like a good metaphor for life. Like, life is crazy. The world is crazy. Blah, blah, blah. We all know. And ultimately, the only thing we can control is our own safe place. So, like, make a safe place in your mind. You can always close your eyes and go there. And it is like a really sweet little thought. And I'm thinking my safe place is like me laying on the beach with the sun in my hair and the wind in my hair and my toes in the sand. Like, that's what you think when someone's like, your safe place, right? So she's like, I'm going to kind of what you do is like you meditate for a while and they rapid fire ask you questions. And that's why she's like, don't question it. Like, if it doesn't make sense, it might not make sense and just like let it be. Like, don't try to make it make sense. And I was like, okay, sure enough. So first she asked me, she's like, I want you to pick a place like where you feel safest in the world. And I was like, okay. I immediately was at my childhood home and that's in Memphis, Tennessee. And obviously, I literally, my whole entire existence and every childhood memory existed in that home. And it's really special to me. My parents have been married for 40 years. I keep saying I was born in that home. I wasn't actually born in the home, but you get it. Like my whole life existed in the home. And it's a safe place for me. And I literally saw myself there. And I was like, okay, that is a safe place. Yeah. And so then from there, she's like, let's see, like, is anyone with you? What are you doing? And immediately, Austin was with me. And I'm like, okay, that is interesting because remember, I say interesting or surprised because he was a new character in my life. And I don't know, but he was just immediately there. He was immediately holding my hands. And I'm like, okay, Austin. But I'm like, yeah, I have always felt very safe in his presence. Like he had a very calming, grounding. He also just has like father energy too. Like that sounds kind of weird, but like it's like a responsible energy. Like, when a guy's just like in their power and like takes care of themselves and takes care of their business, like it's just very responsible energy. Like I'm like, ooh. And probably the coach in him too. I'm like, this guy like gets stuff done and he takes care of business. I like it. Anyways, so he's beside me. So I'm like, yes, I relate to that. He's also a new character. And then she's like, okay, I want you to give this a little bit of movement. Like, can you explain to me what you're doing? What are you wearing? What's going on? And I'm like, I literally remember going, I'm so confused right now because this absolutely is not making any sense at all. Super weird because I've literally only ever seen Austin wearing football clothes, coaching clothes. And I have no idea in what scenario because I'm like, he hasn't met my family. Like, this isn't making sense because Austin is holding my hand. We're walking down the stairs of my childhood home. And I remember Austin's super dressed up, which at this point I had never seen him dressed up. So I'm like, interesting. And she's like, okay, we'll keep going with it. What are you wearing? And I was like, again, don't know what we're doing, but I'm wearing a long white gown and we're walking down the stairs hand in hand. He's dressed nice at my childhood home. This is such a weird vision. I don't know what's happening. LOL. So this is in 2021. Okay. And I remember my hypnotherapist at the time is like, girl, don't question it. It is what it is, whatever. And I remember being like, maybe we're like going to like a gala or something. Like, I don't know. This is like so weird. I don't know like when he would be at my parents' house, us super dressed up because nothing's ever happening in Tennessee where I'm in a gown. You guys see where this is going, right? Because then 2 to 3 years pass and I'm not kidding. I sort of forgot about it because it just didn't really make sense. And it didn't really register as profoundly as it did October 2023, which is when Austin proposed to me, which I also dreamt the night before it was happening and still somehow he managed to surprise me. That's another story. You guys can search that one. AG gets engaged and I tell the whole story of how my psychic brain almost spoiled my engagement. But the universe was like, nah, girl, we want you to be surprised. So anyways, Austin proposes to me in October of 2023. I was so surprised. It was epic. And my mom calls me and she's like, because we had kind of gone back and forth. I was raised in the Catholic Church and I really didn't want to do a Catholic ceremony. Like, I just don't identify as rigidly with the Catholic Church as I don't know if I ever really was a time that I did, but I would say I'm more of like a non-denominational girly. Like, still always appreciate my Christian roots, but I don't see myself doing like a full traditional Catholic wedding. And just I'm more of like a spiritual creature. And I was like, I really just want to be connected to nature. Like I want it to be in a nature setting. So me and Austin kind of thought we were maybe going to do like a destination wedding somewhere. Anyways, my mom calls me and she's like, Anna Grace, I really think we could throw a really beautiful wedding here for you at the house. And I was like, oh my God, gasp, shook, scream. Literally, I was like, oh, the vision I had of us in the steps and me in the gown and Austin dressed nice, holding hands. Oh my God. Like, how did I it was like it crashed over me like a wave. Like I was truly I was too stunned to speak. I was speechless. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that was my hypnotherapy, my safe place 3-4 years ago. I don't know how long, however long it's been now. It's almost 2025. And so I told that story after I walked down the aisle to Austin of essentially how back in 2021, I was like, whatever you want to call it, my mind, my body, my spirit, my subconscious mind, there was always a version of me, my higher self, a version of me who was constantly pointing me to this moment where I would become your wife. Obviously, I'm talking to Austin, pointing me to this moment where I become Austin's wife as the safest place that I could exist. Because without safety, the quality of life that we experience can be so limited. I mean, safety, it's the foundation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you guys are familiar with that, like the bottom piece is safety. Safety is everything. It's truly everything. You know, without safety, we're just so limited in the range of emotions we can experience, the openness of our heart, because, you know, we may not feel safe to open our heart or safe to express ourselves fully to our partner or safe in any way. And I realized that story was so profound in so many levels because my body, even before I knew I was going to marry Austin, back when that vision was such a confusing blip, my body felt safe with him. And that is so profound. You know, I feel like I always say this a lot, that safety isn't maybe the most sexy thing that you can say to someone, but I think it's the most important, it's the most powerful, and it's the foundation of, I really do believe, our ability to express love. And even like, you know, our sexuality, our sensuality, all these things too that feed into being in a healthy marriage. Like, you have to feel safe with someone in order to really get to the depths of, yeah, your core, your essence. Like, when you're, you know, off having flings with random people, it's a bit more performative, or, you know, it's not as raw and vulnerable. You know, it's hard to be vulnerable with people as it is with someone who you feel immensely safe with. And so I told him that. I said, there is no doubt in my mind that my subconscious mind, body, spirit, soul, all these things were guiding me. They were showing me that me becoming your wife was the safest place for me to exist in this whole entire world. My brain concocted the exact location, the exact setting, the exact vision that, I mean, I just couldn't have even made that up at that point. Like, it was so weird to me. I was like, weird. I didn't even think about it until years later. And I told him, like, you know, like that gift that you've given me of allowing me to feel safe, allowing me to relax into myself, allowing me to step further and fully into my purpose, even when, though you guys, like, half the time, you know, Austin, he doesn't even know what the Akashic Records are still, maybe to this day. Actually, I'm kidding. He does, but he doesn't need to, you know, understand, I guess, all of these angles of my business. It just doesn't matter to him because he's just like, I support you and I'll carry you and I'll cheer for you and I will hold you through this whole entire process. And it's like, he's just there. Like, he's just so solid. And so I told him the story, and obviously everyone in the audience is listening too. And I kind of summed it up with, I just said, I'll read you guys this exact part because I tend to go off on tangents and I need a guideline. I said, so it is not lost on me, Austin Silvoy, that as I stand before you today, there was a time back in 2021 where my mind, my body, my spirit, my subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, were all pointing to this exact moment, the moment that I would become your wife, as the safest place in the whole entire world that I could be. First, I want to thank you for being my safe place. You are the most steady, the most loyal, loving, and funniest man I have ever known. Thank you for always protecting me, allowing me to be fully me, never asking to change me, and supporting me to the ends of this earth, even if you literally have no idea what I'm even talking about some days. So today I return the favor to you, and I vow to always be your safe place. I vow to be the safest place for you to continue to grow, for you to succeed, for you to heal, for you to thrive, and for you to continue to develop into your purpose more and more each day. I am eternally at your side. I promise to be a safe place for our entire family and to put y'all above all else. Most importantly, I promise to be the safest place for you to open your heart to me, and I will cherish our love with all of my being and all that I am. I promise to love you for the rest of our days, forever and ever. Amen. That was the ending. Obviously, there was a little bit more um, to the letter, and then my letter to Zane. But now I've officially read that letter so many times, I can finally say it without crying, which was very difficult. But I just thought that was such a crazy synchronicity, but also I just feel like such a blessing because there was so many times where our relationship required really big leaps of faith, like me leaving Nashville, me moving to Clarksville, me moving my life across to Florida, me moving, doing these big grand moves and packing up everything and selling all my stuff and transitioning careers. And there was just so many moments where you're like, I hope this is the right thing. I hope this is the right move. And even though like I always knew it was, because I was like, it wouldn't work out if I wasn't supposed to. That's like always how I am. Like, you cannot take a wrong step, because if I really wasn't supposed to move somewhere, it just wouldn't work out. And everything kept working out so seamlessly. Like the house would become perfectly available and all the things. And I remember being on the phone with my sister being like, this is crazy, because we really hadn't been together for very long. And I'm someone like, obviously I'm a creature. I'm a safety creature when it comes to like really giving myself to someone. Like I was just slow moving in the sense of Austin literally saw me and was like, we're going to get married. We're going to have kids. We're going to start a family. Like it's you, it's you, it's you. And I was like, okay, love that. Love that you have the vision, but I'm just going to like be really cozy and slow and like just really, I want to really know someone before I give my whole entire heart and soul and being to them forever. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But anyways, my sister was always like, Anna Grace, move to Florida, do all the things. You can always move back. You can always like, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. Cause there was moments where it was like, I just met this guy and I'm going to move to Clarksville, which was like a really random place for me at the time with my career. Like it didn't make sense for me to really be in Clarksville because like my whole entire life, agency and friends were in Nashville. So like things like that. So I just kind of like to share these little moments where it's totally normal to question like, this is crazy that I'm doing this. But also, if it's all working out and you're getting propelled in that direction, it was always meant to be. You know what I mean? And my sister was like, well, here's a crazy thing. Move. If it doesn't work out, move back. And I was like, you're right. Like no path in our life is really that serious. Like we really can't mess it up. I think we create this whole scenario. Yeah, like even selling all your stuff, packing up your whole house, all these things, and you go somewhere and then you hate it. Here's the thing. It probably got you out of some situation you needed to get out of. You decluttered your life. Like there's always a reason for everything. But anyways, I'm so glad that I had these little blips, I guess, where deeply in my subconscious mind, like my body knew, my mind, my spirit, like even if I didn't consciously like fully remember that whole vision, because I was also in hypnotherapy and you're meditating, and I've also had a ton of profound visions too, um just throughout life, but that one was so specific that I felt like my body just knew, like, just keep going, just keep following the path. Yep, sell your stuff. Yep, go here. Yep, go there. And that's another reason that I will tell you guys that like your intuition knows, even if you don't consciously have a full image, I guess, or a full big picture moment of how it's all going to play out, because I had no idea how our story was going to play out, and it played out so much better than I could even imagine, and there's so many crazier details that have unraveled. And I can't wait to continue to watch our story unfold, but I'm telling you, your body knows, and your body has a language with you, and your body will signal to you when your body feels safe. And I really feel like that's one thing people ask me, like, how did you know Austin was the one? And I'm like, I don't know if I had a one moment where I looked at him and I was like, you're the one, but it was his entire essence, him being in his power, him allowing me to be me, him allowing me to feel safe, to sink into my sort of feminine energy, to relax into it. How about that? And then once I knew we had done all of these massive life transitions together, I was like, there is no one else that I could have done this with so seamlessly. Like, I feel like, again, not the sexiest words, or words that maybe don't get the most hype, but I feel like so important for me. And I don't know, maybe this just could be me. I don't want to give anybody unsolicited advice, even though you are listening to my podcast. And I hope I do give it good advice sometimes. But I feel like the two words for me were like safety and ease. And your body will communicate with you, which is always why I want you guys to tune into this podcast, because you know when you're with someone and you feel relaxed. You know when you're with someone and you feel on edge. You know when you're with someone, and this could be friendships. It doesn't have to be romantic. This could be platonic. You know when you're with someone and you feel uncertain of yourself, or you know when you're with someone and you don't have to filter yourself. You don't have to alter a word that you say. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to put on a nice face. You can just be. And I feel like that's how I've always felt with Austin, is that I can just be all forms of me. If they're messy, if they're crazy, if they're bitchy, if they're angry, if they're whatever, even if I'm like, oh, I'm being so dramatic right now, or, things that like I feel like we catch ourselves saying that we're like, no, we're allowed to have large emotions sometimes. Like we had so many massive transitions in our throughout the course of our relationship very early on. He's literally like, can you imagine meeting someone at the bar and then like pretty much like 6 months later you have to like relocate your whole entire life? It might have even been shorter. It might have been 4 or 5 months. I can't even remember anymore. But um I think it's really cool to note that your dreams will show these little flashes. You'll feel the deja vu. You'll feel those moments when you're like, oh, I'm in alignment. I had such deja vu on the day of our wedding day. It was crazy. Like I had this moment where I was standing above the stairs about to walk down talking to my photographers, and I was literally like, the deja vu is literally shaking my body to my cores. And I always tell you guys, that's just like a wink. In alignment. You are in alignment. You remembered the plan. You remember the story that you wrote for yourself, and you're living it out. Like, go you. I feel like it's a moment to be celebrated. And yeah, that's how my body felt. And I noticed this even more. And I want to say this too, because I feel like everyone's experience walking down the aisle is different. And so if yours did not look like this, it doesn't mean that yours was wrong or your person's not right or whatever. This is just like my experience. But I was like a maniac Wednesday, Thursday, because we had a welcome party Thursday night, and then Friday. The welcome party, I was like the most heightened. Like my nervous system was like very on edge, not in a anxiety way, but like a overstimulation. Like everyone was trying to talk to me, and if I was talking to one person, there was a line of people waiting to talk to me. So like I felt like I couldn't fully focus on that one person, which I don't like, because I always like to try to be intentional with conversations with people. And so I just felt a little like, I need to speak to everyone. I want them all to feel seen, heard, and loved, because we had 140 people total at our whole entire wedding weekend, which was a lot more than honestly Austin and I were intending. We both have large families. It just ended up being a lot more people, which is amazing. Honestly, we didn't even think that many people were going to come to Memphis and travel, because it is pretty much the majority of everyone had to travel. But super grateful for everyone who did show. But like I said, it's just a lot of energy. And leading up to it, I had no appetite, which is very weird for me because I love a little snack. Love a little snacky snack. And I had no appetite. I was just really like revved up. That's why I say wedding energy is such a portal, which I knew because the energy was crazy. And I sensed that like weeks leading up to it. But the welcome party was like the hardest for me because I was the most like, oh my God, it's happening. It's here. Overstimulated. I also had things still to take care of to prepare for the wedding. As the brunch came on Saturday, that was when I like settled in, like, okay, I've spoken to everyone. I'm kind of relaxed. Like I've at least been able to like give everybody a hug and a kiss and acknowledge them, because that's like what you want. You would feel bad if you looked back and you're like, I didn't even get to talk to them. And they came all this way for me, or whatever. And Saturday at the brunch, though, I could not get grounded. Like my eyes, like everything, like I just felt like I was going to blow away in the wind. And Austin that man is such grounded energy, so ground, so solid. But I am a whimsical fairy and I couldn't get grounded. And like I always explain to people, it's when I don't even really know how to describe what it feels like for me to not be grounded. Just like I'm buzzing. Like honestly, like a moment where I'm like, I almost feel like I'm on drugs, but I'm not. I could not have been more sober. um the welcome party and the day of my brunch and all the things, like alcohol just did not call to me at all. I mentioned to you guys that I had given myself permission to have a glass of champagne, be celebratory, be present. It's my wedding day. I am not gonna like do anything crazy. Like I'm not gonna like start ripping tequila shots just because of my wedding, but I wanted to enjoy, and like we made all these beautiful drinks and like all these things, and I wanted to like try them and savor them, but I just really at this point was feeling like so buzzy, which is kind of how I feel whenever I do like a lot of readings. It's like very like high vibrational energy, so it's not like a bad thing. It's just different. Like I'm just not feeling as grounded. It's kind of hard for me to just stay in the body. That was how I was feeling Thursday and Friday. Then Saturday comes, I get into my hair and makeup. We kind of have a lot of things happening. Like we had a couple of last minute cancellations. We're like making changes to the seated dinner. This is like Saturday morning. We had one other scenario that I'm probably going to break down on another episode because it will take us too far off to the right, but off the hinges here. But um we had like one, there's always something going on with a random family member who just like has too much to drink. And you know what? There was just like normal family dynamics at play. And so I'm like, it's the day of the wedding. And I'm like, everyone's blowing me up. I feel so bad. I put my bridesmaids group text. I was like, you guys, I cannot handle one more person calling me or needing something or my wedding planner or anyone. Like, everyone, please, like, go to your appointments because everyone's doing like hair and makeup. I was like, everyone, please go. Don't be late. Like, I have to like turn off my phone and just like lay down and put my feet up on the wall and just like take a breather because I didn't really sleep the night before the wedding because I was so giddy and excited and like had been with so many people's energy the night before. It was crazy. And Austin couldn't sleep either. He was like, I couldn't decide if I was sensing your energy. And we slept apart. Obviously, he was down the hallway. So, all this being said, it was a portal. The energy was crazy high, but like so fun and so cool to see so many people there for us. I was just so giddy. And then the morning comes, I get into my hair and makeup, I get to my parents' house, and like the house looks incredible. It's like completely transformed in the last like 36 hours. It was insane. And I'm so happy. I'm so excited. I go upstairs, I start doing my somatic movements, which like I put on some music, I dance. I have these moments alone. No one's like watching me or anything. Not like for the videographer. I'm just like having a moment to myself. I like meditate. I had already done my like blessing of like the whole house, all the spaces, all the things, made sure it was like super set up, contained, safe, sacred, do my somatic dance, say my prayers. And I I remember this is like my one thing that I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people. And I just had one of my friends telling me how like her friend was taking like a beta blocker on her day of the day of her wedding because she was so nervous. And I guess beta blockers help keep your nervous system from like going into fight or flight. I've never heard of them before. But then I was like, oh my God, am I gonna be like that nervous? Because I already knew it was like a shit ton of energy. And I was like, oh my God, wow, that's crazy. I know one of my friends like, I could give you one. And I was like, no, no, no. You know what I'm not going to do is take something I've never taken before on my wedding day. Like my like legs like stop working. I'm like, shit. Like I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm not, but I kind of was like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, am I okay? So like I go into the Akashic Records just for like a second right before the ceremony. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like try to ground. And it was so funny because I literally was like receiving all this guidance. It's like, Anna Grace, you literally teach nervous system regulation. You are quite literally built for this. And that was like the guidance that I got that day. And I just laughed. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm actually really good in crowds, good in front of a crowd. Like they're like, this is part of your design. You're built for this. Like, have fun, enjoy it. Like, you're going to be fine. And so all this is kind of happening before you guys. My videographer comes, photographer comes, my mom comes up, we put on the dress. I put on my dress. I become overwhelmingly calm. Like a calm rushes over me like a wave from my head to my toes. Like I say oddly calm, maybe. Was like I was so calm. Like I put on my wedding dress and I was like, I am so calm. This is crazy. Like in that moment, I was like, this is meant to be. This is meant to be. This is meant to be. Like this exact moment is like everything was leading me here. I am so calm. It is actually crazy because I figured I was gonna be really nervous walking down the aisle saying my vows, all the things, blah blah blah. It's like totally normal. But for me, that was just like, it was even connecting back to that hypnotherapy moment, that vision of like, I am safe. I am meant to be here. I am meant to be marrying this man. In this moment, it is perfect and whole and hooray. Like you made it. I put on my dress. I was literally so calm that yeah, I mean, I did my first look with my girls and I did my first look with my dad, which was actually so hard because my dad is literally a lamb and I I can't even handle it because he's so sweet and adorable and precious. But I do that. And then after I did those first looks with them, like I was like, let's freaking do this. And like I was like ready to walk down the aisle. I was like, let's go. And it was so cool because my whole hypnotherapy 2021 vision came fully through because I walked down the stairs just as I did in the vision, and I just felt so sure of like everything. Every detail had fallen into place. I was just so ready to see Austin. I could not wait. And I exited the doors and I was able to like really like make eye contact with all of our guests, like, you know, kind of just like smile at everyone, like acknowledge their presence. Like as I walked down the aisle, Austin is sobbing. And I was just like so happy and calm. It was I keep saying bizarre because I just wasn't expecting it. But even though the Akashic Records were like, yeah, we literally told you, like, you're good. Like, I did my nervous system preparation for the event, which I am going to teach more about that as well. But I did the work, you know, and I prepared and I prepared my speech. So I was just, yeah. I mean, I did all the things that I could to regulate myself, and then when I put that dress on, I was like, this is right. This is correct. Walk down the aisle, seeing Austin's face the first time, he is crying. Like he actually looks like he's really trying to hold back a bigger sob, not just watering. His eyes were not just leaking. He was like fully sobbing. And I was just elated. I was literally elated to see him. Like cuz we actually really hadn't seen each other in a full 24 hours pretty much, or since our rehearsal dinner the night before. And I was so calm reading like the first letter to Zane because I was so worried I was gonna be hysterical. However, I did have two moments where I stopped because I was starting to cry, and Zane's little face, I will literally never get over it. I was reading him a part of one of the lines, and it was like, I remember the first time I met you, and I was like, oh, can't say that. Like I am like it. I was just like holding back a sob. And I looked up and Zane's little sweet eyes and he goes, it's okay, AG, you're doing great. Like he was totally like trying to give me a pep talk to get through the letter to him at the altar. Like that is just like so Zane. He's just like such a sweet kid. He's such a sweetheart. He's just really special. So anyways, that was like the hardest part where I was like, I'm gonna lose it. But somehow, like I really did. I was barefoot. I connected to the grass. I said all of the things that I needed to say and got through everything. And Austin was like, I was literally staring into your soul when I said my vows. I was like, I know, I loved it. Me loves physical touch, loves just deep connection. Um, and he really was. He cried through his whole vows, which was really so sweet. And everyone in the audience really sobbed more in Austin's vows because he cried the whole time. Whereas I will say I did practice my vows because I didn't want to get up there and like uncontrollably cry. Like there's one thing to get choked up, stop, take a minute. That was what I did. But when I first started writing them, I was like uncontrollably crying. And I was like, you know what? At some point, everyone's just going to be staring, being like, wait, what is she saying? So anyways, everyone did cry though during Austin's and everyone cried the most, I think, during Zane's because our whole entire, it was so crazy. I remember thinking it was so eerily quiet. Like everyone was like mouth open, gaping at us. Like at the one point where I was like, are they still like following? Are they still? And everyone was like, yeah, we were literally, once we got done, everyone was like, yeah, we were literally on the edge of our seats. Like, what are they about to say next? What's about to happen next? Because everyone was just like locked in, which honestly, we did want to have a really intentional, raw ceremony, which really goes back to like how I feel like my wedding dress I told you guys was maybe a bit more like simple, or honestly, I just felt really regal. I felt very womanly is the word, which is like a really weird word. And I honestly don't even know if I like that word, but I just felt like a goddess. Like I just felt very like curvy and like voluptuous and pretty and honestly sexy, which I could see most people not wanting to feel sexy in their wedding dress. Like maybe like going for like more of a more modest vibe. I don't know. But I just felt, yeah, really womanly and curvy and like, I don't know, vitality felt like was like emulating from me. And I just, yeah, I didn't want to like, I kept telling everybody I didn't have like a crazy cockatoo headpiece, like something totally in Anna Grace fashion that I would do. And I did try those things on, but it just didn't really feel right with how serious we were showing up. Like it wasn't like a funny ceremony. And you guys know I have a funny side to me and I think I'm pretty funny sometimes. But It wasn't that, it just like wasn't the vibe, you know? And I'm really happy that I went with like my nice cape. Like I just felt, I have my little tiara. Like I did feel like kind of regal goddess. And I always address Austin and Zane. Like anytime I make dinner, I'll be like, this is Big King's plate, and then little Zane is Little King. So like my Big King and my Little King. So I always like reference them as my Big King, my Little King. And so it felt like kind of cool for everyone to tell me like I was dressed up like in my like little queen regal um cape. Because the cape, I don't know, the cape just kind of reminded me of like an old um yeah, I don't know, just regal vibe, kind of vintage. It was something that we custom made, and I shared all that on my Instagram stories too, if anyone here doesn't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that was our ceremony. We walked down the aisle, and basically everyone at that point is starting to cry. I posted a couple videos on Instagram, and everyone was like, not LOL, like Shannon and all of your friends sobbing in the background. I was like, I know you guys. I was really proud of myself. I kind of like I held it together the most, but I think everyone else was more surprised, whereas like I knew what was coming, so I was a little bit more prepared. But yeah, I just had to share my hypnotherapy 2021 vision and how it came true. And so as soon as we walked down the aisle, my photographer grabbed us and we took photos of me and Austin walking down the staircase, because that was where I had the vision. And my photographer, she was incredible. Oh my gosh, Jenny, I loved her so much. I hope everyone uses her. She was just so lovely and so like tapped in, intuitive, queen vibes. Just love her. And she looked at me and she goes, "Where was the vision? We have to recreate it." And I was like, "Thank you. You get the vibes." And so she got out her film camera, and me and Austin walked down the stairs in the exact position, me on the right side, hand on the banister, walking down, Austin holding my hand. And we snapped the picture that I saw in the vision, recreated the moment. We took a bunch outside in front of my house, childhood home, did all the things. But yeah, so I'll share that photo with you guys now that you have like the full circle backstory for how it all happened, because I feel like my parents were, yeah, they were like really excited when they heard that story, because I hadn't told anyone. Also, I think there was just part of me that like just sort of forgot for a while until it was brought to the forefront, which is even cooler because yeah, my body knew. My higher self, she knew. There's always a plan. You're always guided. I know I say this every week, but sometimes we just need to be reminded that even if you forget or you're confused or you fall off track or whatever happens, you're always going to get back on. There's literally no reality in which you can fall off track and stay off track or go rogue. And even if you go rogue, you were meant to, just to experience it, and you'll always come back to your path, because your higher self, your subconscious mind, your brain, your body, you, everything, even when your conscious mind doesn't know what's happening, there's a guiding light, there is a force. God's plan is always, always, always just unraveling perfect. And divine timing is so, 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 so deeply happening. And I feel like I've leaned into that so much so recently that I've barely even been doing. I used to do readings for myself all the time. And lately I've just been like, I don't even mind just like existing and not even knowing and being surprised, because I just know that everything is unfolding so perfectly. I had a moment this past weekend. I was in the bathroom. I kept getting these same reactions where I went to the bathroom. There was an older woman. One of my favorite things about an old lady whose hair has gone completely white is when they dye it like hot pink or purple or blue or like a crazy color, because their hair is white and they're like, it's super easy for it to hold pigment. It was a woman with like purpley blue hair, and she was in the bathroom, and I had a veil on going to my brunch, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you getting married?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And she's like, immediately, you know, we love an old woman who's just going to give you some just out of pocket advice. And she's like, "You're too young to be getting married." Like, she's like the third person that said that to me this weekend. I was like, well, you know, 31. I'm not really like awesome 36. And then she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that is an appropriate age. I do think I kind of look young." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then she turns back and she goes, "My best advice to you is have a baby pretty quick, pretty soon." And I was like, my friend Sarah was with me, and we kind of like, we just like looked at each other like, "Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah." She was totally like, "The clock's ticking." And I was just like, LOL. Oh my gosh, that's like such a funny, like old woman comment to make. And I shared this too on my Instagram, how I was like, anybody who is wanting to have kids at any point in their life. First of all, my mom had me when she was basically 40. Our birthdays are 5 days apart. So she was like a very, very, very late 39, early 40 when she had me. And so I guess I've never felt a rush to have kids because my mom had me when she was older. Anyways, but I was just telling people that the other day, like, because a lot of people were like, when are you also going to have a baby now that you're married? And I was like, first of all, we literally just got married and I'm still trying to relearn how to do algebra because Zane is in 8th grade and we're like in the throes of 8th grade homework being low key hard. You guys, what? Like, I feel like the parents end up doing a lot of work around English papers and homework. So I'm like, why so much homework? My lord, I don't remember. Actually, I do remember having a lot of homework. Anyways, so I was just kind of laughing that I'm like, I don't think we're like, we just want to settle and just focus on our own little family right now. And I just kept telling people though, like, all of that's already written, especially like the big stuff, wedding days, who you're going to marry, what job, what location is calling to you. Um, the moment that children come in, because if you think about it, their conception time, their point of entry is absolutely earth shatteringly vital to their mission, to their astrology, to everything. I mean, think about human design, all of that stuff, how you're literally like the point of which you come in is it's shaping everything for you and it's so special and sacred. And so just want to remind you guys that everything is planned, everything has a time and a place, and whether you're trying to conceive or not trying to conceive and whatever journey you're on, there is so much divine timing at play and it's perfectly planned. And yeah, wherever you're at, I'm just sending you so much love and lightness that you're always guided. Your guardian angels, they got you. They know the plan, they know the drill, and you're just here to feel your best in the meantime and accept whatever situation is at hand. That's my best advice for you. So, and leaving you guys, I told y'all that I won't be doing any more full out 1 year retreats because I have to plan and launch my retreats 1 year in advance. And I did tell you, for the sake of Austin and I's family planning, he's like, okay, well, we can't continue for you to do full out 1 year because I keep committing myself to like 2 year stints. And in the off chance that maybe I did get pregnant, maybe I didn't, like I said, we don't know. 33 was like my intuitive age of when I felt like maybe we would start really thinking about it, or there's spirit babies floating around. A bunch of people have seen them. I've seen them. A lot of my friends who are in this space have. So I'm like, they could come sooner, they could come later. I actually don't control the time. So I'm just trying to not overcommit myself to these year out retreats, but I'm still going to be offering a lot of short term events in the meantime. So just stay tuned in. If you want to do any of my somatic dance or any of the AG University events, they're going to be available. For you guys who are maybe new here, I'm offering a trip to Costa Rica. That's going to be 2025 February, and then I have one in June 2025 going to Bali. And that Costa Rica trip is going to be the last time that I take a group to Costa Rica, and Bali is going to be the only time that we go to Bali in this capacity. So I just want to emphasize how much I would love to see you guys there. I honestly, we have people, actually just had 2 new people join this past week and I'm so excited. I can't wait to meet you guys. I'm just like, I know it's going to be really fun and epic. So if this speaks to you, there is a payment plan. At whatever point you want to opt in for one of the retreats, we'd love to have you. I think they're both at 50 or 60% capacity, which is kind of right on track for where we were last year. And that trip did end up selling out, but I know people have lots going on in life and we start promoting them a full year out. So sometimes people are like, I can't commit to it a year out. And I totally understand, but it is getting closer. It's October. I feel like it's going to be here before we know it. And I can't wait to see you there. So whoever's listening on the other side, I'd love to have you. Costa Rica is going to be amazing. We're going to do 3 different cities and we do all types of energy work, group Akashic record readings, group Reiki. I'll put everything linked in the bio and you can just stalk and read everything. But I really feel like these retreats were life-changing for our most recent group. And it's like some of the most fulfilling work that I do is working with people in person. It's just magic. Yeah, that's all I can say is that it's pure magic. So love you guys. Thanks for coming to class. I'll put everything in the show notes. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this wedding snippet. I'm sure there's more story times to come. There's always a story with me. I am nothing but long-winded. So thanks for being here. Love you guys. Bye. As always, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you feel so called or if it feels aligned, I would love for you to leave me a review here. I always love reading your beautiful thoughts and messages. And also you can find me at Anna Grace Newell on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I will link all of my courses, AG University course curriculum in the show notes, along with if you're interested in booking an Akashic Records reading with me. My scheduling link goes out in my newsletter. It goes out once a month and it's completely free. I would love to have you there. As always, I'm a proud professor and you get an A+ for making it all the way through the end. Love you.